morning.
This morning, Pastor Rick is spending time with family, and I'm always glad when he has a chance and an opportunity to travel. Especially for some of you that might not know, my family's in Pennsylvania, so I get to see them very little. And so when Rick gets to go off and see his family, whether that's in Kansas or in Texas, that excites me because I know that's a refresher for him. That's something that will lift his spirits, that will encourage him, and I know that his family's excited to see him and his wife Julie. And so make sure you keep them in prayer, especially the next couple days. Tuesday they'll be traveling back, so make sure that you keep Pastor Rick and Julie in your prayers. Today's message I'm entitled Running the Race, based on 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 24 to 27. And let me be completely honest, the month of August has been very much a happy place for me because I love the Olympics. I don't know if any of you have watched the Olympics, but I've watched a great share of the Olympics. In fact, I get encouraged watching these athletes who train their entire lives to be at the place where they're at to compete for an opportunity to win a medal. And I watched quite a bit. I love Phelps. I love swimming. Even though I have to admit I am getting a little tired of swimming and can't wait for those track and field events. But the USA team is amazing. Phelps and Ledecky have been extremely, just unbelievable. I've been able to watch cycling and volleyball and all these sports that people have trained their entire lives for. And so I love the Olympics. I remember the day when the torch first lit and started. That was a few months ago. And I was like, yes, it's this summer. I love watching this Summer Olympics. And I can promise you this morning, somebody asked how long my message will be. It will be a little longer than Ledecky's 800-meter swim. But it will be shorter than the 150-mile cyclist race that I watched. Don't worry, I don't think I can talk for 6 hours. So this morning, I'd like to really focus on running the race. What does that mean to us as believers, as Christians? What does that mean for somebody who's wondering, hey, we come to church, don't know much about this Jesus, don't know much about Christian, I want to know what it means to actually run the Christian life. We're going to talk about that this morning. And so that is our focus. So if you want to open up to 1 Corinthians chapter 9, that will be our text this morning. I probably should let one other thing known that I didn't. And believe it or not, at one time I was an advocate for running. I loved running. In fact, I was a cross-country track runner in high school. Don't run anymore, that's in my past. But I loved running. I ran my sophomore, my junior, and my senior year. When I went off to college, I went to Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. People asked me why I didn't join the cross-country team. I said, well, they got 3 guys from Alaska, and I'm thinking that as cold as it is in Alaska, they run pretty fast because they got to get back inside. But the real killjoy for me was at the time when I attended my first year, they also had a Kenyan on the team. And so that told me how fast they were. When I left seminary, they actually had the guy who won the NCAA cross-country race, Josh McDougall. So they've always had a fast team. I am not that fast, and so I kind of hung up my cross-country and track dreams. I didn't go into college actually running, but I ran for fun. And what I mean I ran for fun is I found some people that loved running, and they talked me into running a 50-mile mountain race. I don't know if many of you would assume that's fun. But for me, that was something that was a challenge, and I decided to take the challenge. And I hadn't ran too much since my senior year, and so didn't know what that would look like. So I took off, and 9 hours and 38 minutes later, I finished a 50-mile mountain race. And so that would be what's called an ultra marathon. Anything over 26 is an ultra marathon. The amazing thing is, 2 weeks later, my dad was running the Richmond Marathon, and I got this random idea in my head, hey, I can run, even though I just ran 2 weeks ago and still sore. I'm going to run with my dad. So I ran the race with my dad. My dad trained really hard for it. He qualified for the Boston Marathon in that race. He didn't actually run the Boston, but he had qualified, and that's a big achievement for my dad. And I was keeping up with him at the beginning. We were running like a 7-minute something pace. And then about mile 10, I started slowing down. mile 20, I sadly and humbly say I walked the entire 20th mile, but I finished running in 3 hours and 24 minutes. I'm disqualifying for Boston by 14 minutes. So I've done a lot of running, and I had to bring at least something to show you. That's why I had to make sure that I let you guys know. Here's my marathon jacket. I've kept it all these years. It was back in November 15, 2003. So not only do I love watching the Olympics, I know what it feels to compete for something, to reach for a goal. And so running the race, this is going to mean a lot to me because I've done this for a lot of my life. And so if I were to say, oh, by the way, if you have a bulletin of notes, if you're a note taker, there's notes in there. If there's not, there's some notes back at the table behind Don. If you want to grab them, that's fine. So you can follow along and take notes. Open up to 1 Corinthians chapter 9 if you haven't been there. The Christian life, to me, is more like a marathon than a sprint. When I gave my life to Jesus, I took off running after Jesus as fast as I could, but it didn't take me very long to realize that it was going to be a lot longer, and if I kept running so hard, that I would eventually tire out. So I had to learn that I have my ups and my downs, but I need to keep focusing on Jesus. The Christian life is more like a marathon than a sprint. In fact, I could say that about fatherhood right now. At first it felt like a sprint, and now I realize that as the long nights and parenthood, I need to make sure that I am training for a long time of child rearing. And so I'm really excited. At first, Amber and myself, we went off, we're like, we got this. And as the weeks go by, we're like, God, I don't know how we're going to get this, but we'll do it. It's the same thing for the Christian life. You don't wake up one day and you're going to hit the finish line. It's a long time until we fall into the loving arms of our Savior Jesus. And so our passage, 1 Corinthians 9, verse 24, says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last. But we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. Let me break these down in a couple of these verses. Verse 24, it says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way to get that prize. To me, I love that question because I think it's funny. If I go to watch a race of running, like for instance, if I watch that 100-meter run where those people run faster, like I probably couldn't even run half as fast as they could. I expect them to start, run, and finish running. I don't expect them to ice skate. I don't expect them to swim. I don't expect them to do anything except run. If I go to watch a cycling event, I'm not looking to see people running in it. I'm looking to see people cycling in the event. It says, do you not know that everyone runs in the race? As I was studying that verse in a couple of different translations, I looked back in the Greek, and for some reason the translations don't hold, but it says the word stadium is in there. And I thought, Hebrews 12:1 reminds me. It says, therefore, since we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us, so that we can run with perseverance the map set out for us. And I put map in there, but that's not the word. The goal set for us. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. When I read Hebrews, it says we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses. If we're to study that passage, I know that's not our text today, we would go back and study Hebrews chapter 11 and see all these Old Testament greats that followed God by faith into some of the greatest challenges of their They continue to follow God. To be put in a stadium with people that are cheering for you like those great people. Like, I know that would be amazing to me to have people that are in a stadium. When the Olympics are going, and somebody can hold me corrected on this, I believe that they can cram about 70,000 people in their main area. There's a lot of people watching these athletes and encouraging them and watching them. And we're surrounded by people that have come before us. We're surrounded by people that are with us. And we're surrounded by people that will come after us that follow Jesus. It says, don't you know that all the runners run? The other part of this question that I really love is, this is Paul talking in 1 Corinthians. And who is he talking to? He's talking to the church of Corinth. The church at Corinth would know what a stadium of athletes looked like. The church of Corinth would know that everybody in the race runs. Corinth's in Greece, of course, and Olympics have really held rich history there in the Olympics because that is where it came from. If we were to study Olympics a little bit, I'll give you a little history lesson this morning. The first modern-day Olympics happened in 1896 in Athens, Greece. And it has continued every 4 years until the games that are in Rio today. If we were to travel from Corinth to Athens, it would be approximately 78.1 kilometers. Now, you have to do math, so I'll do it for you. That's about 50 miles away from Corinth to Athens. But the original games, that during the time where Paul's talking, they might have competed some games in Athens, but the main place where they competed before Christ was actually in a place called Olympia, Greece. And it started in 776 BC and continued in Olympia for many years. In fact, when Corinth got the letter from Paul and he said, don't you know that every runner runs? They knew because they probably most likely had games in their town, and they would send their best athletes that won those games off to the games in Olympia to run for a crown. In fact, they probably even had their hometown favorites. Paul was connecting to them of what it means to run a Christian life with something that was really familiar with them. Sort of what I'm doing today. I'm connecting this passage with the Olympics that are happening right now. Paul knows he can connect with the people of Corinth, the church of Corinth, by connecting a bridge there with them. Can I take just a small rabbit trail right now? And I take a lot. Some of the teenagers might giggle because I take a lot downstairs. I'm going to take a small rabbit trail. And why I brought up Athens, Greece. We actually, in that area, have a missionary in Athens, Greece, and the areas around. She's working with refugees. Her name is Ann Davies. And Ann has been a big part of my summer because during camp, I spoke many times to the teenagers about what Ann is doing in Athens, Greece. This year for a vacation Bible school, the kids learned what Ann Davies was doing in Greece because she was our missionary. That's where our missionary offering went to help Ann and help those in her team reach refugees for Jesus. And so I've learned a little bit of what she's doing over there, just a little bit, through emails and pictures. And she sent me several pictures of different Iraqi families and families from Afghanistan that lost their country. They have gone and lost their country. They have their clothes on their back, maybe a few supplies, and they're looking for a new place to live. They have no home. And she's there handing out trash bags. Now that sounds weird. Handing out trash bags. Trash bags for them to put their belongings in because they don't have bags. They don't have suitcases. They need something to put their clothes, their food, whatever supplies that they have. She's handing out trash bags. During the wintertime, they're handing out mittens, handing out hats to keep the people warm. They're sharing their fire, and she's been working so much with the refugees. And let me just explain a little bit how Ann explained it to me. The people of Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan, when they flee the country, they come up through Turkey. When they get to Turkey, they spend a lot of their money to get a raft to go across into Greece. go into all of Europe trying to find a place to call their home. The Olympics actually was a pretty cool thing because they have 10 athletes this year that don't have a home. They call them the refugees. And they're flying under the Olympic flag because they have left their homes from different countries. They don't have any citizenship. They're still looking for a home, but they still wanted to compete, and the Olympics allowed them in. Anne is ministering and teaching Jesus to them, and she explained that she's discipling women. She saw lots of them go into the water, and so I wanted to take that rabbit trail because it's an important. Here at Graceway, we go through the SBC, the Southern Baptist. We have the cooperative program. The cooperative program takes money from all the Southern Baptist churches, and then it pours it into our North American Mission Board and into our International Mission Board, and makes sure that our missionaries can have the food, the supplies, and anything that they need so that they don't have to come off the mission field. And so the cooperative program, Graceway, sends a certain percentage each month to the SBC. Our Annie Armstrong offering and our Lottie Moon offerings that come at Easter and come at Christmas time, they are designated to go to the cooperative program to help our missionaries. And it really means more when we know somebody like Anne that is doing God's work and we're taking care of them. And so I'll put a little plug in there for the cooperative program to help you guys understand what the cooperative program is. Maybe I have more questions you can ask Pastor Rick or myself. But that's what the Southern Baptists do because we want to take care of our missionaries that are telling people about Jesus. All right, rabbit trail is over. Let's keep going with this passage. It says, run in such a way to get the prize. I like the KJV. It says, so run that ye may obtain. Your goal is to get the prize. Verse 25, it says, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Everyone goes into training, strict training. The athletes prepare for this moment in their life. They eat, sleep, they give up pizza probably. In fact, I think one of the Olympians said about giving up pizza. They give up those things so that they can train their bodies to be the best. For us as believers, we need to go in strict training to be focused on what Jesus has in our lives. We do the things that he asks us, and we don't do the things that are not healthy for us. The Olympians at this time that Paul's talking to, they did it for basically olive branches that went around their head. It was a wreath. It didn't even last long. At least the medals that Olympians get today are going to last a little longer on the shelf than the Greeks got. But it wasn't just about getting the award. It was about finishing and representing your people, representing yourself, and beating other people. Same thing for us. It's not about us winning a crown in heaven, even though that's a great thing. We're going to have crowns in heaven, it's promised. It's not about me competing the race perfectly. It's about giving the honor and the glory to Jesus, that I had a well-lived life, that I was able to train myself to compete in my life. In verse 26, it says, therefore, I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. I told you I loved running. I explained a little bit of the stuff that I did. I'll tell you one thing I couldn't stand when I ran. I couldn't run aimlessly. If you told me to go out and just start running, in fact, I used this with the kids last week because they're having a series downstairs similar to this. I said, if I tell you to go run right now, and they're like, where do we run? I'm like, just go run. In fact, maybe you'll be still running next week when I get back. And they're like, because that's pointless. That's running aimlessly. For me, I needed to have a goal. Some of my goals when running were to maybe get a PR, personal record, break a course record that I had before. I would set up different courses around my house, 3 miles, 4 miles, 6 miles, and every time I'd run it, I'd try to shave a second or two off of it. I had a goal. So I'm running today. When I got to college, I had to get some more creative goals because I wasn't running in competitions anymore. So there were times where I'd go running and I would see how much money I could bring back, just because I wanted to go out and run and be healthy and, look for money along the way. I can thank my running professor for that. By the way, I explained I ran that marathon and that ultra marathon, the 50-miler. Dr. Gordon, who has many, he ran the Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico to Canada. He ran across the country. This guy runs everywhere. He leads these races. Well, after I ran that 50-miler, he made me run his running class. It was the worst one-credit class I ever took. It had more work. I thought it was just running. I was like, I got this. Running's easy. I had 3 book reports, 10 articles. I had stuff that I didn't think had to do with running that had to do with the class, but we worked pretty hard for a one-credit class. And at the end, I had to run another ultra marathon, so I also have 2 50Ks in there. So I did a lot of running. That's why I'm retired. We don't run too much anymore. He actually was trying to talk me into the 4th one. He runs 3 ultras, 50, 2 50Ks, and he wanted me to run the last one. And the last one, only a couple people finished. And it's a 63-mile race, and that's kind of when I threw in the towel and said, I think I'm done running. And I didn't run that race, even though he's like, oh, get the jacket out. But I was like, no, that sounds horrible. 63 miles, and only a couple people finished. But there are people that did it. So you have to go after something. You have to go. For the Christian life, for me, sometimes I feel like I'm running aimlessly. Like I'm not running towards anything. I want to be running towards Jesus and what Jesus wants from my life. I'm running over here trying to do this or trying to do that. Sometimes I get caught up running aimlessly. A runner is not supposed to do that. It also says, like a fighter or a boxer beating the air. Beating the air is I'm not a boxer, so I had to do some research. Beating the air is basically punching at something and missing. And if you do that numerous times, eventually you are going to tire yourself out. And if I could share a story with you of somebody that kind of fell into this, it reminds me of a story about a guy named Cassius Clay. Some of you might know who Cassius Clay was. And he was an Olympian. He competed in the Rome Games and won gold. He became a professional boxer. And he took on Sonny Liston for the heavyweight. Even though he was considered an underdog, Cassius Clay used the media to talk up his fight. He said, I'm going to beat Sonny Liston. He said, most fights bring 5,000 people. My fight, we're going to have 15,000 people. We're going to sell out theaters all across the country. And he talked a really good talk. And he was smaller than Sonny Liston. And he got into the round started, and won. He stayed away from Liston's punches. Liston spent a lot of time swinging and missing. Round 2, there's this big left uppercut that hit Cassius Clay and kind of stunned him a little bit. And then he boxed back and forth. And in round 4, I think it was, that there was a hit that Sonny got one that made Cassius Clay's vision kind of blurry. So for the next couple rounds, he's chasing shadows, trying to stay away from Sonny's strong fist. And he's kind of stayed away. And eventually in round 6, his vision started clearing and he started to be able to connect some of his punches because he had been trying to stay away from Sonny's strength. Sonny was getting tired. He started to make some connections. In round 7, Sonny didn't answer the bell. Cassius Clay was awarded victory by technical knockout because Sonny did not come back out to fight. The trainer said maybe it was his shoulder. He said his shoulder was bothering him, so the match was done. A year later, they rematched. This time, Cassius Clay knocked out Sonny for a knockout. Now, many of the younger people probably not going to know Cassius Clay. Some of you might know Cassius Clay because he changed his name later. He said this before he entered the ring the first time. He said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. The hands can't hit, but the eyes can't see. Cassius Clay, for most of us, we would know as Muhammad Ali, because he changed his name based on his religion, basically is why he said he changed his name. And Muhammad just passed if Sonny connected enough of his punches, he wouldn't last in a fight. But if he was able to make Sonny miss so much, Sonny would eventually tire out and lose. And I believe that Paul is saying this: a boxer beating the air, beating at something that's not important, eventually you're going to wear down and you're going to throw in the towel and you're going to lose. We're not supposed to do this as believers. We're not supposed to run aimlessly, and we're not supposed to beat the air. Verse 26 to 27. It says, therefore, verse 27. No, I beat my body and make it a slave, so after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. For me, that verse is encouraging when it says I beat my body to make it a slave so that it does what I need it to do. For me now, not running has caused other issues in my life. My metabolism does not work like it did when I ran. I have to exercise. I have to work out. I have to sometimes say no to the cupcake, even though the cupcake normally wins a lot of times. For me, my physical body, I have to make sure that I do the right things to be able to take care of it. For us as Christians, or for people that want to follow Jesus, it's the same thing. You take care of your body so that you can be focused on Jesus and you can do what Jesus wants for you. So what can we do to take this home? How can we use these 4 verses to impact our lives? I believe that the Christian life has a starting point. It has a middle and a finish line. The starting point is not the first day you show up to church. The starting point is not the first day that you go to a Bible study. The starting point is not when you first hear about God. The starting point is when you give your life to Jesus. And for you to run the Christian life, you have to have Jesus living within you. And some of you today, that might be where you're at. You're still listening. And I continue to encourage you to listen to what Pastor Rick or the Bible is saying to you so that you can have a relationship with Jesus. That's the only reason I'm up here preaching this morning, is because I want all people to have a relationship with Jesus. My relationship with Jesus doesn't look like it did when I was 14. When I was 14 and I gave my life to Jesus, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But I also know that the last, and I don't want to do math since then, I'm 32, so the last decade or two, I haven't had to do it alone because I've had Jesus living inside me, encouraging me to continue to stay focused on Him and what He has for me. The starting point is salvation. The starting point is when you say yes to Jesus. You are the Lord of my life. Then the rest is the Christian life. The middle, the hardest of the 3, in my opinion, because that's where you have to maintain. You're going to have triumphs. You're going to get excited. You're going to see your friends and family come to Jesus. You're going to be excited. You'll have victories. But during that time, you'll also have loss. You'll also have times where you'll be discouraged. You'll be defeated. Because we cannot maintain a life until we're with Jesus in heaven. There's going to be things that come at us to wear us down. And we need to make sure that we continue to maintain our relationship with Jesus. If I lean on my friends, it's not going to help me. To some extent it will. If I just lean on even the church, it might not help me. But if I lean on Jesus, He will never fail me. He will always direct me. And He will always encourage me. And so the middle part of the Christian life is the hardest because it's the time when you say yes to Jesus. Until the finish line, when you fall into Jesus' arms and you're in heaven and your race is complete here on earth. So what should we do then as Christians in this race? We need to, if you're taking notes, there's a couple blanks. We need to run with vision. Run with vision. Verse 24, we go back over, it says, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way to get the prize. All the runners are focused on the prize. For me, my focus is falling into the arms of Jesus and hearing good and faithful servant. I want to run and run and run for my entire life, whether it's so many days to so many years, and to be able to fall into his arms, knowing that I did what I needed to do because I followed him and listened to him. Run with vision, have a purpose. Sometimes some people, I'm a big end goal person. Some of you are small goal persons. We have to set small goals along the way. That's just as well. Set up small goals for your life. You can't be like, for me, I'm 32. And I feel like I got a lot to live and a lot of time. It might seem like a far away time in Jesus. And so for me, I also set small goals. What can I do for him this week? How can I represent him? This week, this isn't in my notes, this just came to my head. I was playing basketball at the YMCA, and as I was leaving, the camp kids from the YMCA started coming down, and one of the kids, he's like, good job playing basketball, and gave me some other compliments. And I had seen the kids up there, but I hadn't recognized that they were actually paying that close attention to the individuals that were actually playing. And so as I walked away, I was like, man, I really hope that I had a good attitude on the court that day, because I had these kids watching me. Those are times where I have little goals where I need to make sure my attitude is correct because it needs to be lined up with that of Jesus. Not only should we run with vision, but we should run with strategy. Verse 25 says, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. Run with strategy. Some of the things that have helped me to run with strategy in my walk with Jesus is under A would be intentional relationships. Intentional relationships. People that make me better. When I was a runner, I had coaches that spoke things into my life to work on, to make me better, to encourage me. Sometimes to yell at me if I wasn't running hard enough, to encourage me to move forward. I had my teammates. My teammates were there left and right. In fact, my teammates showed a lot of trust in me. Some of you might know I was homeschooled, and I ran for public school. I became captain of my cross-country and track team, which to me is a big privilege because I wasn't even a classmate. But they respected my leadership. They respected who I am to give me that honor. In fact, my junior and senior year, I had knee injuries, so my times actually got slower my junior and senior year than my sophomore year, while all my friends got faster. Even though I got slower, I had teammates that continued to encourage me through that time. You need people in your life as a Christian, intentional relationships that are going to feed into you positive things, encouraging you to continue following Jesus. Another thing I put down here is abusive training facilities. Every athlete that competes in the Olympics has training facilities where they work out. When I ran, the weight room was the worst training facility. I hated the weight room. But we did it because we needed to condition our bodies. I love to run, so that was one of the big training things. Did we just run on grass? No, we ran on grass, concrete, trails. And believe it or not, this is a hard one for me because Green Bay is really flat from where I come from. Pennsylvania is hilly. So coach would bring us out and he put us at the bottom of the hill, and the hill would take us like a minute to run up the hill, or it might take us 3 minutes to run. It depended on what hill he put us on. But those hills made us better in the races because it challenged us to be able to run the hills that were in the courses that we ran. Use your training facilities. For us as believers, the church is a training facility. Bible study time is a training facility. Sunday school time is a training facility to be able to use for you to follow Jesus. Also, C, how do you run with strategy? You need time invested. When I was 14, I wasn't anything like I am now. I could quote you a couple Bible verses. I could do some of the stuff I learned in children's church and some of the stuff I did in youth group. I didn't wake up one morning and bam, I was where I'm at today. It took time to get to where I am Time invested in God's Word, the Bible, learning what God wants from you. One of the biggest things teenagers have asked over the years is, how do I find God's will for my life? Normally that comes up about junior, senior year when they're trying to figure out college and what to do. And the best advice that I've ever been able to give is read God's Word, because that is where God will show His will for you. And whatever God tells you to do to the best you can do. You know, it's not necessarily that He's going to call everyone to be a pastor. It's not going to happen. He's going to call some people to be a teacher. He's going to call people to be a doctor. He's going to call people hopefully to be the President of the United States. That's what I would love. Those are things that I like to see, because I think those people in those areas have the best opportunity to reach our teens and our children and our school systems. Those are the best people to reach people on their dying beds as they have no hope. Maybe they don't even have time, but a doctor or a nurse standing beside can encourage them. And I know there's limited in the workplace, but even to be able to pray, even if the person doesn't know, is more power than a pastor can do, because God placed you in that situation. Or maybe it's the President of the United States, because they have the leadership to change the country, as well as to give us good role models for the next president, and the next president, and the next president. So we need to be praying for them. And to be honest with you, I've learned a long time ago, it doesn't matter who the president is. As a Christian, I'm called to pray for them. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, is to pray for our leaders. We need to be invested in our lives. And the last thing is, not only do we run with vision, not only do we run with strategy, but we should run with purpose. Run with purpose. 26 says, therefore I do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. Let me switch over to the New Living Translation. And I'm not necessarily a big fan of the translation, but I love to read audible translations when I do it. And the way that this one puts it, I really like it. It says in the New Living Translation, so I run straight to the goal with purpose in every step. I am not like a boxer who misses his punches. I love that first line. So I run straight to the goal with purpose in every step. As a Christian, we need to have purpose in every little detail of our life. How we parent our kids, how will we treat each other, how we are at our workplaces. We need to have the purpose of living Christ-like attitudes with the people around us. We need to start, maintain, and finish strong. Let's close with prayer. Dear Jesus, we thank you for the opportunity to open up your word. We thank you for the picture of the Olympics that show us a great idea of running towards a goal, running in a race. We thank you for Paul and his letter to the church of Corinth, and how it makes a great representation of what it means to be a follower of you, and to have goals, and to have strategy and vision and purpose, to chase and serve you, Lord. Lord, I pray over the rest of the service this week, Lord, that you would touch us where we need to be touched, Lord, in our lives, that you would help us to work on things that we might need to work on, that you would encourage us, that you would send people along in our lives this week that need to hear about you. And we might be the only ones that they'll be able to hear from you. We pray that we can finish strong. In your name I pray. Amen. We're going to have a time of invitation. And so here's the altar. The altar's up here. You come forward up here, and you can talk to God. You can talk to God in your seat. You can talk to God standing. You can talk to God anywhere. But if you haven't started the race, you haven't given your life to Jesus, the funny part is there's been pastors that I've watched step down from a pulpit because they aren't a believer in Jesus. That's a strong one for me to take. You mean somebody was leaving the church and wasn't even saved? And that's happened. There's been pastors, there's been pastors' wives, there's been Sunday school teachers, there's been leaders of the church that have been great representations of the Christian faith, but of course this not drink Starbucks too much, but how many times, I used to drink Starbucks, that was before Nathaniel. We don't go to Starbucks very much, but how many times